It's been over 2 years since The Elder Scrolls 6 was announced back in 2018, and we still don't really know anything about it. Fans speculate that it will be set in either High Rock or Hammerfall, but we know literally nothing about what sort of time frame the game will be set in or what kind of story will unfold. So I've been giving it some thought recently, and I've come to the conclusion that The Elder Scrolls 6 simply shouldn't have a main quest. When players first start games like Elder Scrolls and Fallout, they start with a tutorial area, but once that is over, instead of pursuing the main quest, they instead tend to wander off in a random direction and start to explore. It doesn't matter if the story tells you how important it is to deliver the King's Amulet or find your child, because the player's just been presented a massive open world full of possibilities to distract them. Players know that the main quest isn't going anywhere, so they'll just get back to it later on. And for me, herein lies the main problem with the main story in this style of RPG. You feel like you cannot properly create and roleplay your own character because the main quest dictates so much about yourself. Fallout 3 is by far the most notorious culprit for doing this, as it leaves almost no room to think of your own backstory, what with the character's entire life being spent in Vault 101 and your character even being given a confirmed age. So if you wanted to play an older character, it doesn't make sense in the context of the story. This to me completely contradicts the idea of a role-playing game and one of the main reasons that I use alternate start mods. It's not that I think the tutorial missions are boring, and if I did, most of the time I can make a save right before the end of the tutorial where I can essentially recreate my character to use as a starting point in future playthroughs. No, for me the core benefit of alternate start mods is that it provides so much more freedom for role-playing a character. In the Skyrim mod that I use, I can choose to start off in any inn in the game, or any of the ports, or even out in the wilderness somewhere, or even other places such as in the prison. Then I can choose what sort of equipment I start with depending on how I want to play the character. I can choose to start in the Moorside Inn as a mercenary for hire with a full set of steel armour and a warhammer at the ready. Or I can start as a wealthy noble who has just arrived in Solitude in the pursuit of wealth and prestige, and I can give myself appropriate clothing and an amount of gold to reflect this. Or I can start as a hunter in the Forest of Falkreath. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that the possibilities are vast if not endless, because I'm not shoehorned into a predetermined starting location with a story already unfolding around me from the moment I start the game. These alternate start mods what make RPGs great, having a choice in how you want to play the game. But if there wasn't a main quest, then what would be the driving force in the game? Well, the answer is simple: whatever you want it to be. Whether it's exploring and adventuring, completing quests you find in the world, or you can even have one of the 4 guilds act as your main quest. Ask yourself, what was the best quest line in Oblivion? I bet the majority of people said the Dark Brotherhood. Think about how in-depth that independent quest line was. Now imagine if there was no main quest, but instead the time and effort of the developers went into making the Dark Brotherhood even better. That is what I'm envisioning when I say there should not be a main quest. Let it be whatever you want it to be. Without a main quest, there would be so much more time for the developers to implement in-depth side quests for the players to do. And instead of guilds, there could also be other factions such as noble houses. Personally, I hope the game's set in High Rock for this reason, because High Rock is a place in the lore that is known for its political scheming and manoeuvring between its houses. If the player so wished, they could align themselves with one of the noble houses and work to increase their power and influence, whilst also harming their reputation with the other noble houses in the region. Let's say that there are 7 regions with a main noble house each. That sounds like a lot of development work, but if there wasn't a main quest, then resources could be put towards this instead. Now I want to talk about side and Radiant quests. Radiant quests are pieces of the content that are simple, repeatable, and designed to give a player something to do and a reward. There's nothing inherently wrong with this, but it most definitely should not replace compelling and in-depth side quests. They should be there to serve as a bit of direction and a bonus reward for going and clearing out dungeons. The problem is that they often boil down to kill and collect quests. Some of the most interesting quests in Oblivion didn't involve combat until the very end, if at all. For example, the quest Paranoia in Oblivion has the player investigating various citizens of Skingrad for a wood elf named Glarthir, who is paranoid that they are plotting against him. He tasks the player with investigating 3 citizens he feels are spying on him. Depending on the dialogue options and actions taken, there'll be a different outcome for this quest, some of which requires no combat whatsoever, which gives the player a sense of choice. But the main reason why this quest is so good is because it keeps the player engaged and wanting to find out what happens next. One of the main reasons why it is engaging because Glorfir and the other characters involved aren't generic named enemies to be killed. As the quest unfolds, it makes the player wonder if there is really a plot against Glorfir, or is he just genuinely paranoid for no reason. I'd just like to say that there is nothing to suggest that there wasn't a plot against Glorfir.
The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence.
It's good storytelling and more of what I'd want to see.
Am I supposed to be him?
Just have to take matters into my own hands.
You can make a good argument that a few of the benefits of the main quest is pacing and stakes, but I feel that that could be found in any quest line. It doesn't need to be about saving the world for the stakes to be high. If anything, this can hurt other quests because the stakes are so high with the main quest. Saving the world from impending doom makes everything else seem inconsequential. And going back to my point at the beginning of the video, it doesn't make narrative sense for the player to drop everything to go and explore when the fate of the world rests on their shoulders. If there wasn't an epic main quest, or at the very least it wasn't thrust on them immediately, then this wouldn't be the case. The player would be free to explore, go places and talk to people without having to worry about the stakes of the main quest being diminished because the player would rather pick flowers and do a bit of alchemy. The point that I'm trying to get across in this video is that what gives these games the potential to be great, and I'm not saying that they aren't, because despite their flaws they are still fantastic, is that the player can choose to make the game how they want, without being restricted by a predetermined story that can hinder their immersion. If you've made it to the end of this video, thanks for watching guys. Feel free to leave a comment saying what you think should be the main story of Elder Scrolls 6, or if like me you think there shouldn't be one either, or maybe talk about the guilds because I'm thinking about making a video on that as well. Anyway, thanks again for watching guys, hopefully I'll see you next time.
Just have to take matters into my own hands. The only way now.
It's time for you to leave, my friend.
Yes, I think... No. Wait, never mind. I must go now.
I'm Gaston Cirilli. Perhaps you've met my brother David.